How's it, and welcome to the Orange Gorilla. I kind of dubbed the Amarok Canyon the Orange Gorilla after pretty much driving through the mist and stopping to take a picture, and I was like, gorillas, mist. Anyways, welcome to the review of the Amarok Canyon. Right, so what makes the Amarok Canyon different from the regular Amarok? Besides the fact that it's like really orange. So the official name of this car is the Amarok Canyon 3-liter TDI 4Motion. They've equipped it with the V6 3-liter diesel engine, which they introduced into the Amarok range about a year ago. And this one comes with 165 kilowatts, so it's actually a pretty decent drive. The orange color is called Orange Honey Metallic. It's a cool color. It kind of really stands out from the crowd. I absolutely detest white cars and gray cars and silver cars, so it's kind of cool to have a car that really does just stand out a little bit from the crowd. It's noticeable. One thing I do notice with this car is like a lot of people, it's a bit of a head turner. People notice it, people point at it, and it's kind of just, it just stands out a little bit. Like it gives people something to kind of, you know, notice on the road. Like you're driving along and everything's white and gray and silver, and then there's this really cool orange Amarok Canyon. So what is the price on this bad boy? This one doesn't have a lot of options. It's only got the winter package in it, which is heated seats, which at this time of the year, when it is 24 degrees outside, is completely useless. Actually, heated seats in South Africa are just stupid. It doesn't actually get cold enough here to really warrant them. In winter climates, where it is like 0 or -5, heated seats are quite literally a lifesaver. But in South Africa, they're a little bit of waste. Anyways, this has got the winter package in it, and the price is standard is 799,000 Rand. So I don't know how you feel about paying 800,000 Rand for a bakkie, but if you wanted one of these bad boys, that's what it will cost you. Honest opinion, cars are expensive, and 800 grand for what you're getting here is probably quite reasonable, I think. Right, let's talk about the engine a little bit. It is, as I said, a 3-liter V6 diesel engine. Produces 165 kilowatts, which is nice. But the magic figure in this car, gosh, it's beautiful down there. The magic figure in this car is actually the 550 Newton meters of torque. That's a lot. That's a lot of torque. And it's a big car. 0 to 100 is 8 seconds. Like a smaller car with those kind of figures would get there in, like, you know, 5 seconds easy. But it is a big car. It's a heavy car. It's a lot of power. It actually handles really well. It's one of the things that like really intrigued me about driving this Amarok. I mean, I'm on Chapman's Peak at the moment, which really is like sports car territory. Body roll on this is surprisingly little. The handling is really good. It's just like a ton of power and torque. Throttle response, so there's like no settings. There's no like comfort or sport or any crap like that. Like there's the bakkie, it's got a setting and that's what you get. The throttle response on the default setting though, it's just like really good. Like you step on the gas and like stuff happens, you know, like you can chuck it around some corners, you know. It's a bakkie, it shouldn't be doing this. I mean, barring sort of performance sound, this car is actually an absolute hoot to drive. It goes. This is a good engine. This is a really, really good engine. So VW, for all their shit around diesel engines, they actually really know how to build them, and it's controversially one of my most favorite engines in the world is the 2-liter and 3-liter diesel engines that they produce. I know they're kind of dirty, but they're really cool, and they perform and they go, and just they're good engines. So if you're banging this lump of junk around corners the way I was there, fuel consumption is not great. It's supposed to be 9 liters per 100. That's what the spec sheet says. I've been getting closer to about 10.5. Like, I'm not flat out all the time, but I'm also not sort of driving like grandpa. So it's reasonable. Like, you can get it to 10 and below 10 if you really had to. What does help is that it's got an 80-liter tank, so you can get quite far. You can get a good 800 kilometers on it. I've not been able to take it on the open road or even off-road, but I imagine on the open road, cruise control 120, you're probably going to get close to that 9-liter figure, and that means you're looking at close to 1,000 liters on a tank of fuel, which is not bad. So the purpose of the Canyon is to kind of make it a little more off-road, and the way that they've done that is they've made the wheels slightly smaller, so you have more tire. Anybody who knows anything about off-roading knows that you want as big a profile as possible to go off-road. You don't want low profiles for off-roading. And you'll see around the fenders, there's like massive big plastic sort of covers, and that really is built in there to just protect the bodywork, because the idea of the Canyon is to literally go off-road more often. So some other things that make the Canyon interesting is that the seats all have like orange stitching, and even the seat belt has like these orange edges on it. So they kind of color-coded the seats and the seat belts to the body of the car. I know it's like a small detail, but like that's what counts. I really like it when there's just that kind of thought that's been put into it. Car also has a whole collection of 12-volt charging sockets as well as a lighter socket. Pretty standard actually on the Amarok, so not unique to the Canyon, but it's like a cool feature. Just allows you to plug a lot of stuff in. It's got an 8-speed DSG gearbox, which is just perfect. It's got all the usual sort of Amarok features, where it's got a diff lock, it's got this off-road feature, which is VW's version of low range, and obviously it's got traction control off. So you can take it off-road, and as I said, this one's specifically built to be more off-roadable than the regular Amarok. Multifunctional steering wheel. It does not have a digital dashboard or digital active info display. Kind of would have been nice. Like this in the Caravelle, I think like I was just really in need of that. It does have new lights at the back and the front. Otherwise, it's pretty much a standard Amarok with a couple of really cool extra bits and pieces on it, and not like exorbitantly priced. I think this is about the same price as the new Amarok, like the normal V6s. So if you're looking for something that's like a little bit different in the bucky space, then this is a solid option. What you do get on the inside here is the infotainment system. This is not the big one. There's like an 8-inch version of this, but this is pretty cool. It's got Apple CarPlay built in, so 2 USB ports in the front. You jack your phone in, you've got all the CarPlay shenanigans. The sound is pretty standard VW sound. Not terrible, but like nothing to write home about either. Pretty sure you can do an optional extra on here if you needed proper sound. Depending on where you're going with your bucky and what you plan to do with your Amarok, that might be something you'd consider. But otherwise, the ride in this car, as good as it is, it's still a bucky. It's still got that kind of bouncy bucky feel. It's not, and like, I mean, it's a bucky. That's why it's like that. But I hear a lot of people sort of talk about the Amarok being more SUV than actually being a bucky, and I would have to like beg to differ. This is still unmistakably a bucky drive, a bucky ride. That's what the ride is. If you're in the market for a 3-liter V6 bucky and you want something that is just going to stand out a little bit, then I would give the Canyon some serious consideration. This is a cool car to drive. It looks cool. Like all the bits work. It's all really well thought out, like typical Volkswagen. They get these things right every time. You know, the quality of the materials are good. There's nothing that feels like you've cheaped out. So if you do drop 800 grand on this car, you're not going to kind of look at it and go like, yeah, that's like cheap. Like everything's well built, everything works, the ride is fantastic, the acceleration is great. It's like kind of hard to fault the Amarok Canyon. It's probably as good as a bucky can get.